Hello and welcome to Cinema Craptaculus, where we say a bad movie is just as hard to make as a good one, just a lot easier to make fun of. This is Stephanie, and with me are my uncrappy co-hosts,
Dave
and John. Today, we have a special guest. Every week, he features unique stories from incredible everyday people who make the world a little bit better each and every day. To turn a little light in the darkness and spread some good. From the podcast World Gone Good, it's Steve Silvermen.
Yay!
Yay! Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you.
And we totally never mentioned that you used to remotely be involved in this show. It's all just in the past, so why bother? Why bring it up?
Yeah, it's a new world.
It's a whole new world.
It's a new world order. The past.
No, not that.
Kill the past. Forget the past. Kill it if you have
That's
to.
very good. That's going to come into play.
Steve, do you feel like this is banter, or do you think we should just jump right into movie review? You're the guest. We want to make you feel comfortable and participatory.
Well, you know what? I'm going to ask myself, what would Corey Cunningham do?
Oh, then I got to get right into this. Okay. This is it.
Well, no, first of all, before you do it, he'd go on a motorcycle and drive around for 18 more scenes. Now go.
Okay, so this promises to be the last of the Michael Myers Halloween saga. And after all the various timelines and alternate sequels, this is the irrefutable moment when Halloween ends. See what we did there? Here's the rapid recap to catch you up.
Rapid recap! Well, Steve brought him up already, so everyone must remember Corey, the most pivotal and beloved character in the Blumhouse Halloween movies. You know, the guy who all the recent movies were about next to Laurie Strode. Remember him? Oh, wait, he was only introduced in this one and for some reason took up 85% of the movie while Laurie and Michael putzed around in the background? Anyway, Corey, town pariah and overall creepster, gets murder minty help from Michael Myers, who has spent the past 4 years in a sewer, hanging out with Pennywise the Clown, I guess. But when Corey befriends him, Michael once again goes on a murder spree that leads to Laurie Strode... Oh, hold on, my producer's talking to me. Really? He doesn't go on a murder spree. It's Corey who goes after Laurie. I see, okay, but surely Michael kills a bunch of towns? No, okay. So is this a Halloween movie like Halloween 3, Season of the Witch? Where it has nothing to do with Michael Oh, it does. It wraps everything up between Michael and Laurie. But I didn't see that at all. Well, I turned it off 10 minutes before the end. Oh, that's when it happened. Okay, let's just start the discussion of the movie. Halloween ends.
Wow. That was,
I guess I spoiled the end.
I think Dave gave his rating right there.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't hear any lies. I mean, the whole thing really did wrap up.
I summed it up pretty well, huh?
Yep. I don't know what I thought this was going to be. Going into this, I seriously, after, because you guys know how we all felt about Halloween Kills because we watched that and we reviewed that. And I guess I was thinking, okay, well, maybe this is a turnaround from that and we're going to get back to non-gory basics. But this was not as gory, but definitely more Corey.
Less gory, more Corey. Halloween ends. I'm getting a t-shirt made up.
We have to say to our listeners that Steve has, a little bit of a social media presence and likes to, make it known. And Steve, you kind of hit the ground running pretty vociferously, yeah?
I think while I was watching the movie. Okay, so here's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Here's the first thing I'm going to say. Halloween Kills is like the Donald Trump of movies, where you go, it can't get any worse than this, right? We're fine. That movie's over. It can't get any worse than this. So I'd like to take us back, if I can, to how Halloween Kills ended, if we all remember, okay? Judy Greer gets sliced and diced.
The whole town turns him into Pinata, and yet
Yes.
he turns into Uma Thurman in Kill Bill Volume 1.
Phone call from Laurie. Michael, of course, answers, because who wouldn't? He goes, which is reminiscent of the earlier Halloween 1978 movies. She goes, I'm going to get you, you bastard. Like somehow knowing their daughter's dead, grabs a knife. And as she's walking out of down the hallway of the hospital, we freeze, right? Freeze frame on a bloody knife. Now we come back to this movie, and somehow she's bought a new home, though I don't understand what she does for a living, because she hasn't worked since babysitting 44 years ago. I don't know what the fuck this woman does for a living. She sure shops. She was at the supermarket. We saw her there.
Maybe she was named in the will because her daughter and her.
But here's the other thing:
were
she
killed.
burned down her last house, so maybe isn't there insurance, maybe fire
could have
insurance?
It looks like arson.
And she's baking a fucking pie, which she's burning and cutting pumpkins. And it turns out, that I guess when you leave hospital because someone's murdered your child, you go to a TED Talk where someone tells you to write a book. And then about your feelings, which I want to point out really quick, you all, anyone who's listening, I'm writing a novel right now, and Stephanie's a professional writer herself, and we can tell you, complete Hollywood, that thing she was writing, completely bad format, should have been double spaced. That is how you do a novel, people. Single space. I said, not TV, no movie, no. Okay, so this is how I feel. I don't know the fuck happened with this movie, but for 46 minutes, I thought I was watching a failed CW pilot called Haddonfield. I don't know what the fuck the movie was I was watching. And now you can speak, because I literally have pages of notes as I've shown you all. I just think that when you go back to Halloween Kills, which was so violent and so extreme and so, in some degrees, bad, right? And then it ended on this giant note. Here she goes to kill. She's going to get revenge.
Well, what's interesting about that, too, is the second movie started right where the first movie ended,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Like in 1980.
It was that night.
1918. The 2018 movie ended, and then Halloween Kills starts. So with what you're saying, Steve, you expect the night to continue.
Sure.
But instead,
Yes.
she went to a self-help class and started writing a terrible book.
Do we even know if she had?
With
Was she
horrible
even?
VO.
Did she even have an advance for that book, or was it just her
What
writing?
does this woman live on? That's what I want to know. Did you see
I
her
think
house?
she may have been living on the advance. I think
Okay.
that
The
she actually found a
podcasters in the
publisher.
first one only gave her $5,000, right? For her
eight,
interview.
eight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that burned up.
She was a coffee mug and sunny morning away from becoming one of those female Instagram influencers who's like, I don't know who needs to hear this, but you can do it.
I interviewed those people on my show, but I won't take offense to that.
Boom.
Now listen, zing zang. But here's the other thing. It didn't even start there. It started 1 year later in 2019 in a house we've never seen before.
I thought it was 5 years later.
Well, it's he's getting to that.
Yeah, I right?
Oh,
Stephanie,
okay.
take it away, right? It started in
Yeah,
2019.
well, so it starts a year after the events of the first two movies with Corey, our boy Corey, who's in a mansion babysitting. Well, I want to talk about who. Okay, let's just get right into the meat of this. Who is Corey?
He is young Casey Simasco, if you know who that 80s actor is.
Why did they keep why is this guy constantly being bullied? He's bullied by children, he's bullied by band members, I'm talking marching band. Teenagers in a marching band at the local
Well,
high
you
school.
kind of need to explain how he got to being bullied. That there was a major event.
I think it's him. I don't think it was the event.
He was being bullied by the person in question. Before that person met their
Wait, who are
untimely
we
end.
talking about? The kid?
Yes.
That was the only place in the whole movie that I thought was a jump scare. Where I was like, oh my God, what the...
So, because Corey,
when he-
Corey went and Corey assumes the role of babysitter. They said something about him being their gardener or something
Yeah.
weird, and I was like, why?
Yes, he mowed their lawns.
I didn't quite get that either. And so, apparently, they're like, oh, you can cut grass. I'm sure you can watch a child, and they know their child's a dick. They know that, and then they're like, we're gonna be
Yes.
back in a couple hours. And it's the Gremlins rules. No, don't feed him after midnight. Don't get any water on him, right? Literally, they're like, get him in bed.
Don't
at
let him
8,
watch
8:30.
John Carpenter's The Thing.
No TV, exactly.
Right.
They specifically say that, and this kid is a fucking dick.
I mean, out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. And you know what? That sets the viewer up for the movie because they're like, you know what? A lot of shit's going to come out of nowhere in this movie, so get ready. If you're front row at a Gallagher concert, bring a poncho because you're going to get watermelon on you.
They did have this recurring theme that was established by this boy, the babysitter, the babysitting charge, that Corey was ugly. Like, people keep talking about how ugly he was, or like, look at your ugly face, or like, look at this ugly motherfucker, you know? And I'm like, what? Like, why are people picking on this kid's face? Like, I don't understand. It just seemed a strangely cruel thing.
You're skipping over how he got to being bullied, though. You're talking about events that happen after he's the town pariah, and there's a pretty compelling reason why he's the town pariah. But
right.
my overall question for the film, one of many, is why do so many people stay in this town? I mean, first of all, if Michael Myers was still on the loose, as he is at the start, 4 years later, a year later, whatever, I'd be living in Hawaii because Michael Myers ain't getting on a plane.
Well, if he's like the shark from Jaws 4, he'll follow you and make it personal.
Yes,
yeah, it is personal.
This time it's personal.
So many people just stink. Lori, the daughter, the victims, the victims' family, everybody, because Haddonfield clearly is such a thriving town that you've got 3-story mansions.
What's also amazing is they still have Halloween in this town.
I know. It's like when you want to stop it after so many deaths. I mean, okay, wait. I mean, like, it's like, okay, actually, they had the killing spree in 78, and then they had the killing spree in 2018.
That's right.
It's not that bad.
And then one child gets accidentally killed in 2019, and then that's
boo-hoo.
That doesn't have anything to do with anyone else.
Yeah, but they made a point of
most
saying the town
importantly-
kind of fell apart, and there were like weird suicides, and when
Right,
someone
they
would
did
get
do that.
I
killed,
did not understand that.
it was like a little
I
sort of
was like,
montage
what?
scene.
So I have a friend named Ryan C, because that's his name. I've shortened his last name to C. It's not Cunningham. Okay, but Ryan C is a huge Halloween fan, and I talked to him because I watched it on Peacock. I talked to him while we were watching. I was texting him because we had to take a break to, cry and
Absorb
weep.
it.
Yeah, and hold each other for a little bit. But I talked to Ryan C, and he said to me that this movie, the 3 movies, are about trauma, the different phases and stages of trauma. And this movie is all about facing your trauma and letting it go and dealing with trauma. And I guess if you look at it that way, that's what this movie perhaps is trying to get at. But I have to say this. For this to be the closing of a Halloween franchise, the closing of Halloween, you're suddenly going to explain. You're suddenly becoming this big, again, TED Talk Hallmark movie. You're going to explain things, and this is why. Let's all hug. Maybe Michael Myers just needed a hug. Everybody, no. Pick up right where you left off in Kills. Lori walks out the fucking door. Someone gets in her way, she slashes them, and she's on a mission.
Well, to that.
Well, that'd be more interesting. I'm sorry, Stephanie, but that would be more interesting where she unintentionally becomes a Michael Myers.
Be amazing. That's what I thought they were going to do, right, Stephanie?
Yeah. Yeah, and also, that's a really good point you make about trauma, and I can kind of see what they were trying to do. And I think that the biggest left turn on this was including a whole story about Corey, because he's just not, we don't know who this guy is, and it's just like completely made up. Like, he killed somebody, and then and it's like, okay, well, I don't care. Who is this kid, and why is he so, yes, he does like the transformation from being like a little nerd boy to being like evil, but it's still kind of like, why couldn't you have made the daughter or the granddaughter do that?
Yes.
Keep it in the family.
100%.
Yeah, and that would actually make more sense about the
Trauma.
themes of trauma.
Absolutely.
And carrying it out. I'm sorry. There's so much in my brain right now. First of all, last night I had a revelation. We were texting about this. We've been texting about this for a while. Last night I had a revelation that what if this were the second movie? And then, like, we see In the first movie, we have whatever the first movie was. Second movie, we have the story about Corey and the town. And then the third movie is what Halloween Kills was, Laurie versus Michael. A little more throughout, with the town just going fucking nuts. I think it would have made more sense.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Well, I'd like to just bring up the notion of fandom and fan pleasing and stuff, because I kept thinking a lot about.
Oh, because this movie did none of that?
Right. I kept thinking a bit about the Star Wars franchise in general, but particularly the recent trilogy. And I think there are some comparisons to be drawn. The first and foremost is when you take, like all of the sequels, when you take the project out of the original filmmaker's hands and give it to other people, then all of a sudden it's no longer the vision, just like George Lucas gave it over to other people. But also there's the expectation of pleasing fans and kind of balancing the nostalgia, love of the original, and also bringing in something new to contemporize it and make it interesting to modern audiences who didn't worship it or grow up. But I think with these horror franchises, particularly the Jason, Freddy's, Michael Myers, is that there's this weird expectation that it has to end, but not really. And I could have lived, just with the first 2018 film, just said, oh, cool, that's a great legacy film. Yeah, they ignore the others. Yeah. Pays homage to the original, has a very satisfying payoff. It brings some feminist and other forms of modern sensibilities that maybe you didn't see in previous installments, and wraps it up in a nice, crisp, burned bow. But then as the film came out, they announced, no, it's a planned trilogy. And I'm like, wait a minute, planned? Oh. Or is it being handoff like the Star Wars films to Rian Johnson, all those Star Wars directors that came in? Or was it all part of David Gordon Green and Danny McBride's vision? And then the pandemic came, so it kind of put a big crater into when they could film. But I feel like this film, to your point, it takes the things that the fans, and they're the ones that really a Halloween movie should cater to, and shits on it because we want to see Laurie, we want to see Michael.
Yeah, but there were so many like visual echoes and visual homages to the very first movie, like having the Thing, except it's the 1982 Thing that didn't exist in 78. And having Laurie, wall sliding and crying, like
looking out the window, seeing Corey by the bush downstairs,
yes,
the knitting needles the knitting needles on the floor. But here's the thing I have to say really quickly is that when you have to explain a movie, your movie has failed. That's how I feel about it. Especially here, he's a shark. He's Jaws. He's an unstoppable force. You don't have to explain it. My favorite horror movies of the 1970s, 1980s is the family moves into the house is evil, the house tries to kill them. The end. That's it. Oh, the house had feelings because you guys, the house was bullied when it was a tree back in the forest. Fuck you. It's a house and it's just trying to kill people. And so that's where...
That was my problem with Rob Zombie's, because Rob Zombie said,
exactly.
Oh, Michael was raised by a stripper who had an abusive boyfriend, and he was a sweet kid. No, the original was scary because it was a middle-class family in Midtown America who had a kid that was fine, and then one night turns evil and stays evil. And that's a little more scary, in my opinion.
Yes.
John, 100%. 100%. No, that's why I hate the Rob Zombie movies. But that's why I also love the very first 1978 version of this, the original Halloween. I love the very first scene after he goes upstairs and stabs his sister and he's downstairs and the dad goes, they pull that pull-out shot. If you ever have to watch this again, watch the mother. The mother actress who has no line, the actress she just stands there with her mouth agape like, huh? Like this. And then the dad goes, Michael? Like his delivery of like, Michael?
Tiger shark. A what?
A what?
A what?
Wait.
Tiger shark.
Were you supposed to think that the boy that Corey was babysitting was going to become a murderer?
I don't think so.
No,
I mean, we
again,
barely got to know him. Like he says something mean to Corey. Like he says, I don't want no punk ass babysitter or something like that. Like he said an ugly ass boy babysitter. And I was like, what? Those are ad hominem attacks, sir.
You're a bully, sir. We don't allow this kind of talk.
That was the most NPR insult I've ever heard in my life.
But seriously, I have to question, because one of my favorite newer horror movies is Happy Death Day. I love Happy Death Day. It's just so enjoyable because it's so simple. And yes, it's ripping off other things, but it's so well done. Happy Death Day 2 No, bad. Don't try to explain why Happy Death
Things
Day
happen.
happened. Just let it be. And to John's point,
Yeah.
you fucking shit on the fans, all of us, with this movie that makes no sense from the beginning. Why did it take I clocked it at 52 minutes when we first saw Michael. And 52
He was
minutes
living in a sewer.
and he's living in a sewer.
Like a Ninja Turtle.
And he becomes Corey's bitch.
He does.
Hey, we'll be right back. And now, back to the show. First of all, if Michael was still at large, they would have dredged that city and the feds would have been on that place, you know. But we're
Right.
going to buy that he's been living in a sewer living on what, rats, like Tom Cruise in Interview with the Vampire?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, other humans too, because he's killed.
But does he
people
eat?
and
He
drag them
eats
into the
human
sewer.
flesh now.
I guess so.
He shares the space with that monster from Jeepers Creepers. That's what that reminded me of, the tunnel.
Yeah, and the homeless guy it's the quintessential homeless guy. It's like I was waiting for Bruce Wayne to give him his jacket. I was waiting for Marty McFly to like drive by him. And the same homeless guy. It's just like literally, I think it's the same actor for the last 40 years.
Well, that guy was funny too because remember how? I mean, I think he was supposed to represent how Jason has an. I'm sorry.
Good one.
Jason.
Good one.
I think that he's supposed to represent how
We're not talking about better movies.
how Freddy. No.
My bad.
Ghostface, how Michael Myers infected Haddonfield, right? Because it's just some random man who's singing songs, and then he's like, "I'm Michael Myers," and he starts brandishing a knife to kill Corey, and then Corey kills him a little too easily, I might
And he
add.
also knows that Michael's being fed or is feeding himself with the like. And again, it's not a big town, but there's missing persons, and Michael's consuming them. Gonna red flag that?
I mean, is he eating them or is he like what is happening here?
I
And plus, he's really old now. I mean, he's got to be like wasn't he like 70 or something? I mean, maybe not 70.
Yeah, they're playing
But
fast and
he's
loose
got
with
aches
age.
and pains. Yeah, I kind of
Yeah.
was looking. I think they played that a little bit.
Michael should be the same age as Laurie, right? Or younger.
Okay. So like,
No, younger, like 10 years younger.
oh,
Because wasn't he 9 when? Oh wait, but that
In the
happened in
68.
68.
Yes,
right?
yeah, that was
Right.
10 years prior. So he's like a
That's
year
right.
He's
older
about
than
20
her.
when he's about 20 when he escapes, and so it's just a few years older. And were you guys expecting them to maybe, even though they said they were ignoring the
65.
lore, were you guys expecting the brother sister connection to surface, or do you think that no? I
They
going
dropped
in,
it.
they're not
they
gonna go
said that
They
in the
dropped it
first-
in the first movie. Yeah, ghost stuff.
But
yeah.
it was just the granddaughter saying, "Oh yeah, that was bullshit." But it could have been a revelation to say like, "Oh yeah, we actually didn't want you to know."
But that, from what I've read, that was like Jamie Lee Curtis's biggest beef, one of her biggest beefs, and it's one of the reasons why John Carpenter originally, wanted nothing to do with the second movie when they made him fold that mantra in the
Oh, yeah,
family
yeah.
connection.
because this version doesn't this timeline only takes into consideration 1978 and does not take
Yeah.
into consideration. I mean, the version that was released to us in 1978 and does not take into account Halloween 2 when Laurie's in the hospital and running away from
Right.
Michael.
So
right?
this film tries to do an awful lot with this Corey character. They both try to paint him as sort of the victim of bullying. They turn him into Marlon Brando from The Wild One.
riding around his motorcycle the entire
He's also
movie.
the poster child for burgeoning sexuality, where the parents, the thing that drove me crazy was his mother.
Oh yeah, his Stephen King mother.
No, his Norma mother from Psycho. That's what they were going
Psycho,
for.
yeah.
They were going for the
Norman Bates.
overcompensating, over obstructing mother, and it's her fault. She's the one who did it. But that character was so fucking inconsistent. She was fucking crazy. Listen, when Laurie Strode shows up at your house and is the less crazy person, you're crazy, okay? Because Laurie fucking showed up at that woman's house and she was up, she was down, he was this, he was that. That character again was like, wait, what? You want me to? Oh, so I'm supposed to again explain? You're explaining.
Right. Well, wouldn't it have made more sense? I mean, you would have probably not had to, you would have had to stretch out that prologue with the jump scare and the boy falling over the thing. But if we at least knew a little bit more about Corey before any of that happened. If he was so pivotal to this episode, why are we not learning anything about him?
Well, and there should have been more of a build to him, because clearly they set up this weird, like, Batman and Robin sort of protege mentor thing where he brings, like, Renfield, these victims to sort of rejuvenate Michael's bloodlust, and then they go out on a killing spree where Corey's doing all the heavy lifting, and Michael's like, I'll just come in and finish, but thanks for buttering up the warming the crowd up for me.
Can we please talk about how they connected? Like he pulls Corey into the sewers. Corey is like knocked out by his bully or something, and then like pulled into the sewers. And then Corey wakes up and Michael's there, and then Michael looks into his eyes.
And then you see
rapid
rapid cuts
magic?
of previous movies.
And no, I have a question about this, because when Michael pulls Corey into his eyes for the loving gaze they share, instead of slicing and dicing him like everyone else, there's super fast flashes of all the stuff between them. And the question that I have is, who's receiving the information? Is Michael pulling the information out of Corey? Is he putting it into Corey? What is happening? Now, my friend Ryan C. said that Corey was just remembering all the things that had happened in his life. And I said, what does he need to be remembering all the shit? Like, is it that the last moment of your death that you see every single thing before getting sliced, but he didn't die? Like, again, what the fuck was that?
It seemed to be a transfer of Michael's evil, a full transfer, because later, after that moment, people, including when we visit the father again of the child that died, and Lori said that I looked in his eyes and it's not the same kid.
It was a bad upload.
He was like, let me put this flash drive into
It was a jump drive that went wrong.
I want to take that scene and right before it do the AOL dial-up tone.
Dong, dong, dong.
Downloading.
Okay.
And then or just put the downloading graphic over.
Here's the problem I have with this. Because if you go back to Halloween 2018, you had that doctor who was obsessed with him, right? The one who supposedly took over for Donald Pleasance, right? And he was obsessed with him. And he helps him. Remember, he helps him. He shoots the cop. He stabs the cop in the neck. He puts Michael in the car. He helps Michael. And Michael's like, oh yeah, be my Uber driver. It's cool. Take me to Lori. And they drive over with the granddaughter in the back seat and all that. But then he tells Michael, go kill them, Michael, kill them. And then Michael kills that guy. Now, why did Michael kill that guy after that guy helped him so fucking much, but not Corey Cunningham?
I got the sense that Michael was aware of the bullying, and it's this weird morality, because they did make a point. Here's the thing I don't understand is that the kid sort of sets up the getting, oh yeah, I remember Michael Myers, he only killed babysitters, not kids. Well, that was by happenstance, because I believe he was still in various incarnations going after small kids, but it was mainly teenagers. But he may have heard the bullying and heard these kids throw Corey off the bridge, I
mean, because he was underneath the bridge when that happened.
John, were you in the room when this was being, like, storyboarded, and you're like, maybe he hears him get thrown off. Okay, put that card up on the wall. Put that on the card. That's good.
But even then, Michael wasn't
if you
bullied.
were, how much cocaine did you allegedly do?
But no, Stephanie has a point.
Michael was bullied in the Rob Zombie film, not this one, so it doesn't make sense.
It makes no sense.
I don't understand why Michael Myers would even care about bullying. It wasn't like he was bullied and was like, oh, I see a kinship here in my madness. It wasn't even like that. It was like he was treated like Bruce the shark in Jaws, where he just, he swam and he ate and he made baby sharks. That was basically what he does. I'm sorry, John. I'm sure
I think Michael must have. I think it has to do with sensing, because they make such a big deal. And even at the end of the last one, they mention that evil transforms. Evil doesn't die or whatever. It just moves. And so I think you're right.
It changes shape.
I think there was an exchange that he was heading down a dark path. It was very Anakin Skywalker and the Emperor. And I'm like, going back to Star Wars. But there's one thing that I think that this film sort of addresses is a little bit of age. And I think we, as an audience, I'll speak for myself, could kind of buy this tall, big, James Cromwell-looking guy from the back could still be a vital killer. But in this one, they go out of their way to show that he's old. And little Corey says, "Give me that fucking mask, old man. I'm gonna." He kind of gets the. I mean, there's no way that our Michael would get overpowered. But in this one, yeah,
I have a theory, but I have a theory on this, and it all comes down to if you look at the timeline. So the last movie ended in 2018 before COVID. I believe that Michael got COVID and is in long haul COVID.
Yeah.
And that is what's happening. Because if you look, that's why he's living down there. That's why he's kind of tired, and sometimes he can kill, but then he gets really overwhelmed, and he can't.
Foggy brain.
Yeah, foggy brain. Can't. He's
wears
got a really
a mask
bad
everywhere.
cough. He has a mask on. He's trying to protect people from
Corey
others.
you shouldn't be sharing
Corey should not be sharing. They're within 6 feet of each other. He shouldn't be doing that. I literally was like, if we're going to explain everything, let's just say Michael has long COVID. And then he's just sort of stabbing, but he gets tired. Oh, he's achy.
Mentor or no mentor, the smell from Michael in that sewer, having not showered in a year or
delicious.
however, and then putting that
5
mask
years.
on.
Oh God.
Oh, nasty.
Stop. Delicious.
I bet you make a good point, John, that you could probably smell Michael coming like how you would smell a bear. You know, like how bear has like that musk, and you're like, whoa, what's that? Oh, it's the giant killing machine. Okay, yeah, like Michael has an aroma.
But also, what has Michael been doing for 4 fucking years? Because he went from completely empowered, stabbing away at the end of kills, taking out Judy Greer, and I want to talk about that in a second here. And now he's just been doing what? It's like Lori. They just sort of like, let's just have some downtime. Let's just have.
He's been doing Wordle.
Again,
he's
going
been
to
doing
find a book in that sewer.
Oh God.
There is a book that Michael has been writing.
All stab and no fun make Michael bad
Kill,
boy.
Kill,
He's like
kill,
Bart
kill,
Simpson.
kill.
He's writing, "I will not."
It's called How Laurie Strode Bullied Me. The Michael Myers story.
So I want to talk about Judy Greer for a second, dying at the end of the second movie, and what a simple thing they could have done to this movie to make it all work, which is not have her die. They let the black female character from the one house who died with the guy who does all the voices on The Simpsons. They got all diced up in kills, right? But she survived. If Judy Greer had survived and was in the hospital and was on life support, and then you have all this reason for Lori I've got to avenge my daughter's death, really. You know what I mean? And there would be the connection. None of this Corey shit would have mattered. And you could have paced it out, and it could have been like, Lori, no, trauma. We need to let this go. He took out your daughter. And then we'd buy, okay, because again, my friend Ryan C. here, he was satisfied because he took out her daughter. That was enough for him to satiate him. That's his claim. I don't believe that's true, but maybe it was. Maybe he's like, okay, I couldn't get you, Lori, but I got your fucking kid.
They still never explain, not that you have to do the explanation, what was his fixation with Laurie Strode. At least with Halloween 2, they tried to say, if he's going to come after her, it's because there's some connection. We'll make up this bullshit story about being a half-sister. But in this film, why does he go all the way out? I mean, there's 1 million people to kill in this town, but he somehow has to go out to the middle of nowhere to her little fortress to kill her. Why?
And how does he know
because
it's her?
Michael Myers is a completist.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, so these are all good questions. Here's the thing. I am still baffled by this. I mean, okay, maybe not baffled, just slightly confused. What was the whole thing, like the various town folks? We got to talk, first of all, we got to talk about the town folks. I think everybody in Haddonfield is an asshole. Like, every single person was mean for no good reason.
Certainly the males were.
Yes.
Yeah, but even like the women, like and the teenage girls in the marching band were mean too. I mean, you know, it was just weird. I heard this happen a couple of times where people would talk to Lori, go like, "You antagonized Michael Myers and he came." I don't remember how did she do that? How did she antagonize Michael Myers so that he came out and...
I hate to bring politics into it. I think it's a little bit of how people reframe the story. Just like they're doing with events that have happened in our country's history recently. People, and it could be the social media world, they just have to flip it so that somehow it's somebody else's fault rather than the person whose really fault it is. Does that make
Did
sense?
she actually do anything that was like that in the preview? I have a hard time remembering the first
No,
two
but
movies.
that's their perception and the way people have to find
Oh.
somebody to blame. And I get that in the whole idea of evil can take many forms. Evil could be the mob, which is what they were showing at the end of the last one.
Right, in the fight circle.
Yeah, he gets beaten up pinata, but somehow can take them all out. I don't get that.
And people were standing by waiting their turn to get killed.
And then in the
Well, okay, that makes sense.
Serving number 27. Number 27. Your stab is up.
At least in the second one, they bring back characters from the first one, and we start to get to know them. They bring back Kyle Richards and who's the boy? Tommy, played by Anthony Michael
Tommy
Hall.
Doyle.
So we start to bring these characters. But don't forget in the second one, I don't want to relitigate the second one, but they did try to fill stuff out where Will Patton's sheriff character, who is supposed to have been a deputy in 1978, doesn't he accidentally shoot the wrong person? And so the filmmakers feel they have to fill it out with all these characters. Fine, but none of those characters make it into the next one except for Will Patton, who's barely in the movie.
And also, I mean, Lindsay makes it in, and she apparently owns the bar, which is never explained either. And then Lonnie's a giant character in Kills, and all Lonnie ever had in the very first 1978 movie was, "Get away from the Lonnie before I'll chop your dick off," or whatever the fuck he says, like the guy from Jaws. But again, yes, it's giant reaches here going on. But I want to bring up one thing in this movie, too, which you're on right now. The fuck is the romance story between that cop and Lori? What?
Oh, I thought you were going to...
Yeah.
What's up with any of the love story? There's two love stories, and both are crazy.
No, but at least Allison and Corey, I'm like, oh, you crazy kids. Like, you're young, you're stupid, whatever. But I was like, what is happening? This is literally like an old WB show I used to work on, where it's like, okay, well, we have Courtney Thorne-Smith and we have Rob Lowe. I mean, they're only going to be on for a few episodes. There's no reason to put them together. Let's just put them together. Let's just just have them. It's fine. Oh, you know what? Maybe when she's at the candle making class she's taking, he's there. Why would he be at a candle making class? Oh, he brings the wicks. This makes complete sense.
Well, clearly they're trying to round
He's a
out
wicker man.
Lori. They're trying to make it so that, the cherry blossoms represents hope, and he's hope.
Fuck
because
you.
He's gonna,
Fuck Hope.
Well, I really want to talk about Corey and what's her face, the granddaughter.
Allison.
The
Because
daughter.
that
Oh, the
thing,
granddaughter,
Allison, that blew my mind. I was like, what is happening here? And not in a good way. I was kind of just like,
Yeah.
she thinks he's cute. Lori kind of helps set them up when he gets, glass in his hand or whatever, which is still kind of out of nowhere. Like, how did she immediately go, look at this young bullied child. He'd be perfect for my Lori, or for my Allison. But they immediately are like Allison is like on him. Like, she's immediately like zeroing in on him, like staring at him and like, oh, and I don't understand the appeal, first of all, because he's so ugly. And then second of all, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I'm only taking cues from the rest of Haddonfield.
From an 8-year-old. Your cues of attractiveness are from an 8-year-old.
An 8-year-old bully.
And,
Boy.
in a high school marching band.
I didn't get that attraction at all either. And they just thrust it upon the audience like some kind of...
I think it's a commentary, honestly, on dating in post-COVID world 2022 with your Tinders and your who's-its and your what's-its, as my Stephanie would say. I honestly, I was watching them, and I know what you're talking about, but I was watching all this, and I'm like, yeah, my sister's been in worse situations than that. And she's single. I mean, honestly.
Here's the thing, though. That's a really good point. I feel like, Dave, the point you're making, Dave, it resonates with me because it felt like we were being like dragged along from point A to point B because that's where the story needed to go, not because it made sense. Yes, Corey suddenly wants to kill because that's where the story needs to go. Yes, Lori decides to, she switches and goes, I see evil in him, not because they had any interaction that would be indicating that at all.
Yeah, she glanced at him.
It's like, but that's where the story needs to go.
You have no idea why she's attracted to him. She never says it or conveys it. It's just like,
Allison?
oh, there's someone everyone hates. I love him.
Yeah, I get to help him at the hospital, and then the whole sequence of them getting revenge on mean people. I just was like, you're gonna be busy because Haddonfield is full of mean people. You're gonna the population's gonna go down to like 3 people very quickly.
On that exact point you're making, which is this. She's like, let's do it. I'm in. Let's get our revenge. Bitch doesn't do anything.
Down.
Burn all down. Bitch doesn't burn anything. She doesn't do anything. She sits and drinks a milkshake, and he gets yelled at by some guy, and she's dating some weird cop who's got a toupee on, and he's like 55 years old.
God,
I was like,
that
what
scared me.
Me too. I was like, okay, Petty. Get away from me, pedophile. But the thing is, honestly, she keeps saying, let's burn it down. I'm ready to go. I'm ready. Basically, her version of burning it down and getting her revenge is angrily packing her suitcase like she's going to leave.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't
the audience is
jack
expecting
shit.
a Tarantino movie like True Romance or Wild at Heart, and what we're given is an argument with Grandma. I will say that I think where the plot for this project, for the third film, went off is when they made the decision to end it, the second one, on Halloween night. Because Michael Myers isn't a character that can kind of exist in a realm where he's going to fill the time. You know, not like Freddy.
Right.
Freddy can cut. So the minute sun comes up, then he's out in the open. And I go back to, they're going to have police everywhere. They're going to have, SWAT, federal, the state National Guard's going to come in. They're going to find him. So they can't spin the plot of 2 hours with Michael Myers just circulating during the day and night. It's got to take place on Halloween, and if Halloween expires. So they said we either keep the night going like we would normally do, and just do it, like Steve and you
Later
guys
that
suggest,
night.
or we do this. But then what do we do with Michael? Well, we got to go, let's just put him in the sewer and give the movie over to another guy. And that's where the film premise falls apart.
Him living in the sewer is the least offensive thing in the movie. I'd be fine with that if the rest of the movie was about Michael Myers just killing some people.
Well, they did that in the sequels. Wasn't that Halloween 5?
Wasn't that in Halloween? H2O? Halloween
He's rebooting. He's
5?
rebooting.
Halloween.
Someone pull the plug on Dave and replug him back
It was all
in.
Halloween. 1978, Halloween. Rob Zombie,
Halloween.
2018, Halloween.
To John's point, I have to say, I think they wrote themselves into a corner at the end of Halloween Kills, because we already talked about it. The amount of stabbing, killing, bludgeoning in the middle of the street, the amount of blood. And that, to John Carpenter and Deborah Hill's credit, was their genius. They specifically, there was no blood in 1978 movie. There was none. The blood showed up in the sequel. I remember it well. The kid walks into the one room and slips on the blood and falls on his back. There's no blood in the first one. It's a kill, and you don't see it. It's more it's more the fear of the unknown, right? But what you're making a good point, John, is that in Halloween Kills at the end, you can't top that. You've gone so far, and then you go further and kill poor Judy Greer, who, again, I keep bringing Judy up because I gotta say, Judy Greer is probably the smartest, luckiest bastard on the planet, because she is not in this final movie, and you know that actress is just like, whoo, dodged a bullet. Thank God I went over and did Reboot. Whoo, I'm glad I chose that alley. Whoo.
On that note, should we rate this?
Yeah.
Cinema Craptaculus ratings.
We have a 3-tiered rating system here at Cinema Craptaculus. The top, Cinema Craptaculus. This episode is Halloween. This is thrills and chills, the best. Craptaculus is just fun, but it's okay if you miss it. This episode, it's President's Day. And then Utter Crap, or Columbus Day. Hate it? Why does it even exist? Steve, since you're the guest, you want to go first?
Everyone, I've decided to give you my honest, true feeling on this in 4 years. I feel like this movie, you all should wait 4 years. And I'll write a book, burn a pie, cut open a pumpkin, and I'll re-wear the same clothes in really pivotal locations, so you can all be like, oh my God, I get it. He's doing it again. I'm not even going to rate this piece of shit movie because it angers me so fucking much. Columbus Day, I mean, look, at least, I can't even give it a Columbus Day because at least Columbus, people got to go on a nice boat. There was a ride, they went on the ocean. There was a poem. There's a poem. They got a holiday when they got here, sure, gave them everybody, horrible social diseases and killed people. But, I detest this movie. I am sad about this movie. It really upsets me to the point that I'm just in my mind going, okay, I'm just going to pretend this didn't happen and do what I did last night and watch H2O, which is still one of my favorites 20 years later, way better than 44 years later, whatever the fuck it's been, and give it no rating. It doesn't deserve a rating. And that is how I feel about it. And to my friend
All
Ryan,
right.
my friend Ryan C out there, fuck you.
Great.
Now, how do you feel? How do you feel?
I would put. Oh, so I'm a little bit. I don't know. I was really confused about what was going on. I was trying to remember what had happened in previous movies while I was watching this. That was a challenge.
Yeah.
As a standalone movie, fine. But as a Halloween ending trilogy ending feature, I am conflicted. So I think I'm going to have to give it our middle rating, our Craptaculus middle rating of President's Day. Like, it's fine, but it's okay if you miss it. Yeah, watch it, but if you don't like it...
Don't expect anything from it.
Yeah, don't expect
It's
it.
kind of like an absent father.
If you have to work on President's Day, that's fine.
I will say I'm about where Steve is. I'm not a fan of the Halloween movies, and this one lived up to that expectation. I think the most genius thing they did in this movie was at the very end, they put Michael Myers' body into a wood chipper. And I thought,
Oh,
that is the only thing that says, yes, this is the end. And that was fantastic. Because I think at the end of every one of these movies, the audience wants to see the killer just be demolished.
Done.
So that there's no chance of return. And I also want to say to all the Halloween ends apologists out there, like your friend Ryan C. I have a friend who's like, the themes they're working on is blah, 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 blah. If you can't have your fucking movie say the themes and make it make sense, then just the themes is not a good enough reason to like it.
I'm not as big a fan, but I am a big fan of the original. So it's like, I don't, honestly, I don't have the love of the H2O. I did not see the Rob Zombie sequel. I think I saw
or
pieces
the
of the
Busta
other.
Rhymes one.
Right. Oh my God. But I'm going to play the record of Star Wars that when you're trying to appease a fan base with the finale and you only get one shot because you're not going to bring back, Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford and sadly Carrie Fisher. You're not going to get Jamie Lee Curtis back. Jamie Lee Curtis obviously says, I'll do this. We'll wrap it up. So you get this one shot, Eminem. And I feel very badly because I don't have that passion. But I feel that passion because I didn't have the expectation they were going to stick the landing. After the second film, my expectations were so low, but I also knew that you're not going to please everybody. So on one hand, I have to kind of feel like your friend Ryan and say, well, I applaud them for trying to do something which they tried to continue from the second is to make a more of a societal argument about evil itself rather than just go through another round of the slasher genre. But the problem with that is that Michael Myers is a shark. The genius of John Carpenter's creation is that he doesn't really have an explanation. And as we've talked about, when you try to explain it, how did Indiana Jones get his scar? How did, all of it? And then you try to have this big emotional ending where James Bond dies, you're going to piss off fans because there is kind of like a bloodlust, for lack of a better word, of what they want to see. And they want to see Michael and Laurie throw down. And Steve's point is so well taken that it was so simple. Have them throw down. And you could create a narrative that leads up to that. And I certainly don't want to see where they do an Alien Resurrections where she has affections for Michael and we're all going down together. But that's kind of what I thought. They were going to kill each other. But I think that I call it utter crap because as a Halloween movie, it has to sort of honor that first and foremost. And to Dave's points, you want to be something else, go write a different movie.
Well said.
Well said. So, thanks, Steve, for joining us on the Cinema Craptaculus journey. We've talked about Halloween lots and lots and lots, and I feel like we now can stop talking about Halloween.
Let's talk about you. Where can people find you?
I'm right here behind you, Stephanie. You can find our show, World Gone Good, wherever you're listening to this podcast right now, and you can grab a dose of good after these assholes. And I spent the last time telling you what bad things were, apparently. But we jump into the world of good things, and we have all sorts of great guests. And right now, actually, we have a show up with Broadway Tony Award winner Tanya Pinkins, who did the movie Red Pill, an indie horror movie, which you all should take a look at and possibly review. Super fun movie. So we have a Halloween episode of our own up right now. And as always, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me back. Thanks for putting up with me. And John, cheerio and pip pip in jolly old London.
Yes, thank you. We have a Halloween episode of the Expanded Universe coming up at Cinema Craptaculus, and it will feature the showdown of U.S. versus UK in Halloween.
Nice.
So with a British guest, which I'm excited about.
That sounds jolly good. Thanks for joining us on the Cinema Craptaculus journey. This is Stephanie, and ever present with me are
Dave.
And John.
Remember, a bad movie is just as hard to make as a good one. It's just a lot easier to make fun of.
Steve, are you going to sing us out for old time's sake, or are you just too bitter about this?
I actually had one. Ready? What the fuck was that? That what the fuck what was that? That was bad.
I feel like we should just cut out all the discussion and go from the introduction to the end.
Thanks again to our Cinema Craptaculus sponsors and to you, our loyal listeners, for making our show what it is. If you haven't already, give our channel a rating and a review. And of course, you can follow us on social media at Craptaculus on Twitter and Instagram. And you can follow us on Facebook or find more stuff at cinemacraptaculus.com. If you haven't noticed, each week you get a new variation of Cinema Craptaculus. We come in so many forms and sizes and different hosts. So from all of us at Cinema Craptaculus, we wish you a safe and happy Halloween.